Let's take a look at the fantasy basketball waiver wire. Who's been added? Who's been dropped? Were they the right moves? Can you make the right moves? Who should we be paying attention to? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I don't really have any understanding of why people think that there's a problem with Tyrese Halliburton's voice changing. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at LockedOnFantasyBasketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, you customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and we are available on all platforms. Double bang? Yeah. I don't know what you've been doing across the break, but I just hope that you've spent all of this time double banging, because that helps everybody. It makes us all have a good feeling. We get to watch the videos. We get to download the audio. We thumb it up. We leave comments. We ring bells. What a great way to fill in your time. In fact, you could probably quadruple bang over this time. I don't think anyone would have too much of a problem with it. We're talking waiver wire. Now, I'm recording this on, what day is it? Tuesday. Tuesday in the States at about 6:30 p.m. We will start to get tomorrow injury reports filtering in, and that will impact some stuff. So tomorrow I will do a full Thursday look-ahead show, give you an idea of streaming options for that very busy day, but also an injury update show will come tomorrow. No point me doing an injury update now and going, yeah, like everyone's questionable, right? So we'll do more of that once we get a little bit more information filtering in tomorrow. But I just wanted to have a look at our standard waiver wire sort of stuff that we do, and that's what we're going to do in today's show. Just take a look at transactions and trends and things that have happened and things that maybe we're able to get ahead of. Earlier this week, I did a show talking about some players. I think that was the top 12 players who might be able to be really interesting, come from nowhere sort of guys late in the season. That's not to say that we go and stash all of those guys right now, but just give you an idea of some names to just see the direction that some of these teams take. So there was that show that's already done. We've done the top 8 improvers, risers. We've done the top 7 fallers in terms of production. So go check those shows out. And now we're looking at the waiver wire. So let's start the waiver wire by talking about who is at the moment a must roster player. I have looked from today, obviously no games today, through until the 10th of March in my projections, which for some of you will incorporate the first week of the playoffs. For some of you, that will lead you up until the start of your playoffs. For some of you, that will lead you until 1 week to go until your playoffs. And for some of you crazy people, it will lead you until 2 weeks until your playoffs. And for you in Roto, you don't have playoffs, so you're well aware of that. So it's trying to have a look at guys who are available in like 45% of leagues, majority of leagues who are active. That's a better point. Majority of active leagues, guys that even if it is just short term, shouldn't be sitting on the wire. So these are the guys that I like to be. Even if you look at them and go, well, they don't have a great schedule, their quality games aren't good. For these guys, the way that I project them, it doesn't matter. They become startable players, I think, over this time frame, and that schedule part of it doesn't really exist that much for them. Got it? Hope so. This, of course, is not an exhaustive list. If I put 6 names up, which I do, that doesn't mean there are only 6 must-roster players. In fact, there's probably 120 must-roster players. There might be even more, right? These are the 6 guys that I wanted to really highlight here now. And number 1, we are going to go with Sterling Scooter Henderson, who is going to be the starter the rest of the season. That means pretty strong minutes. It means, hopefully, that Malcolm Brogdon, I did the air quotes, I should have done the fingers crossed what I meant to do, that Malcolm Brogdon doesn't come back and start playing 33 a night. There are going to be bad Scoot games, I guarantee you this. He has fixed his free throws. They're awesome. His 3-pointers, don't look now, but they're actually pretty good. It's his 2-pointers that are trash. But I do think that as the season goes on, you'll get more responsibility, a little bit more consistency in the shooting, and I just don't think you can leave Scoot Henderson on the wire. These are category league ones, by the way. I got Trey Mann there. I, along with everybody else, has no idea what is happening with LaMelo Ball. I don't know. He might come back. He might not. I don't care. For the time being, we roster Trey Mann, and if it turns out we have to drop him, we drop him. Also, and you'll say, Josh, you're a hypocrite. I'm not, and let me explain it. I don't care that he has 2 games in the playoffs. I don't. I had a problem with taking guys in the first round when there are other sort of equivalent players in the first round who had 2 games. That's where I go, no for 2 games. If I'm adding someone off the wire, I don't care. And if we get to the playoffs and they've got a 2-game week and I need to drop them, you know what I'll do? I will, in fact, jack them.
Get that garbage out of here.
So I don't care about making waiver moves of these sort of a player to go, oh yeah, but their playoff schedule sucks. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Their value might actually turn. Imagine Trey Mann becomes a top 40 player and then a 2-game week makes him a top 80 player. Then whatever. It's great. You don't have to think that far ahead for these waiver moves unless you are like, I am not competing at all over these next couple of weeks and I'm strictly just planning for the playoffs. Then you can make that decision. So Trey Mann's there. Aaron Neesmith's here. We still don't have the results of his scan for his leg injury. I am putting him here just with a caution, just in case there's not anything wrong, serious. I don't think there is, but he left the last game before the break with a leg issue, but I think he needs to be on a roster. I've got the speaker, Keyonte George. He was awesome the last game. That's great. He needs to be on a roster. There's no guarantee he continues that, but like Scoot, the Jazz have gone, yep, he is our starter now. They will continue to keep more usage into him. His shooting has improved. It's not fixed. It's not going to be always great, but it's improved, and that's a start. And then I think they start to pick guys off, and Jordan Clarkson won't play, and Larry Markkinen won't play as we go through the season, so that's more and more towards George. I've got Marvin Bagley there. Yeah, it's Marvin Bagley. He just needs to be on a roster. There's no one coming for those minutes in Washington. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Whatever. And the other one there is Kelly Olynyk, who also left the last game with a back problem. I don't expect it's anything serious. We haven't heard anything about it. We'll get more of an update tomorrow. But he needs 23 minutes, and he's a 12-team league guy. That is it. That's all he needs. So if he gets those minutes, you put him on your roster. Very, very simple. So just do it and do it now. For points leagues, 6 names, a lot of the same sort of names. Scoot Henderson, Marvin Bagley, Trey Mann, all on that list. I've got Brandon Pajemski on this list. I do think that Pajemski needs to be rostered in category leagues as well. He's got a little bit more stability in his points league value because the free throw issue doesn't really rear its head. I don't know what happens when Chris Paul comes back. We know that Pods is starting over Klay Thompson at the moment, and that's enough just to make him a must-roster guy. I've got Keyonte George on there, and the other one I've got on there is GG Jackson. Now, we've talked about GG at length. GG is a much better points league guy than category league guy. His category league value depends on whether the shots go in at 43% or 50%. Because if they go in at 50%, then yeah, he's a category league option. And he probably should be on a roster, but there's going to be a lot of issues where it's like, tall Jordan Clarkson did it again. But in a points league, you don't really care. So GG Jackson needs to be on every points league roster everywhere. There are going to be so many weird things with that team, but GG should be rostered. Category leagues, I get it if you don't want to, because of the deficiencies in the way that he can actually actively decrease the value of your team with certain situations. And that's reasonable. I get that. But he should be on a points league roster. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It doesn't have to be a moneyline bet. It doesn't have to be a parlay. It doesn't have to be anything. Just a $5 bet. So you might say, hey, let's look at GG Jackson and his points prop. Like, is he set? What's the number set at? 16.5. I think he might do more than that. I think he might go over. And you can place that $5 bet. You win it. And you get $150. Or you can just look for teams that are playing against the Pistons and juice the money line on them and get you $150 that way. You've got all the favorite teams and NBA players available to place bets on, quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They've got the power of LinkedIn behind them. It's got a vast network of more than 1 billion with a B professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. And LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring on LinkedIn is so easy and so good that so many small business owners tell us that they get the qualified candidates they need. In fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours of posting that ad. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make this process easier as well. They just launched a feature that helps you write the job descriptions that you need, making the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions Apply. Okay, so we've looked at the must roster players. That must mean it is time for us to look at guys that are droppable.
Get that garbage out of here.
So again, when we talk droppable, because there's always a new person jumping in to the show or haven't seen it for a while and don't understand what I'm saying. When we're talking droppable players, you don't have to go and drop these guys. In fact, there might be short-term value in holding them. The schedule might make sense to hold on to them. But when you assess your roster and you go, there's a great option here on the wire. Do I really need to hold on to this bloke? And hopefully this list gives you the answer. We're like, no, you don't. So when we look at it, I've got Russell Westbrook at the top of that list. This is category leagues. Westbrook, there's just not enough A, upside in minutes, B, security around efficiency, even assist rate and rebounds has dropped. It's not there. Yet he's rostered in like 90% of leagues because his name is Russell Westbrook. And fans of Russell Westbrook are definitely 100% rational and calm all of the time. So I just don't think you need to roster Russell Westbrook. You know what I'm saying? Russell. You don't. You can if it fits a very specific situation. But there are a lot of people who have Westbrook on their teams that aren't in that very specific situation. And they're just hoping for a time machine back to the glory days. You don't have to hold him. I've got Bojan Bogdanovic here. The Knicks are going to welcome back straight after the break Isaiah Hartenstein, Bojan Bogdanovic. They're both going to play, as is Dante DiVincenzo. All three of those guys were out the last game before the break. We don't know when Anunoby and Randall are coming back, but that might be coming. Randall, I'm a little worried about Randall, to be honest. I do think that he might get extended out. I don't know about OG. But for the short term, Bojan is okay if you want to roster him. But I see absolutely no way that Bogdanovic maintains 12-team value once one of Anunoby and Randall returns. And honestly, the last game before Bojan sat out, he wasn't useful anyway. He played like 25 minutes off the bench. So if you are in a situation where you go, like, I need to activate someone off my IL list and Bojan's my worst player, see ya, bye, done. I've got Dennis Schroeder here. Again, there'll be people who say you don't need to do that, and I agree, you don't necessarily need to. But Schroeder started the last game with Ben Simmons out. He was bad. He's consistently been not very good. He had a really hot start this season, but just as a general rule, he's a poor permanent fantasy producer. And he's a bench point guard. And I would expect, unless Simmons has a setback, huge possibility that Schroeder's minutes will come down. There's also Dennis Smith on that team. They've got a new coach. I don't know what they're going to do with that. But if Ben Simmons goes from 24 minutes to 28 minutes, those minutes come from Schroeder. So I just don't see that his value. He needs probably 32 a night to be this clear must-roster guy. He'll become an excellent streamer on nights that Simmons is out, although last time it was bad. I just don't see him as a guy that has to be held onto. Got Jordan Clarkson there as well. Now, the man on the street, JORDANCLARKSON, I think I spelled that wrong, but he can have hot streaks, that's for sure. But he's a points and threes guy that lacks in a lot of other areas and just has wild hot and cold streaks. And I talked about it with George earlier. I think they might just sort of peel him back a little bit. As the season goes on, they try to worsen their draft spot. They try to give more responsibility to maybe Bryce Sensabaugh, but Colin Sexton and Keyonte George. You'll just see Clarkson start to get a finger injury or an ankle soreness or something will come up. I'm fairly confident of that. I've got Jalen Green here too. Jalen Green had a nice little 2-week run where people were like, hey, Jalen Green, he's figured it out. Well, he hasn't because he's bad again. And Ime Udoka is not happy with his production. And I think there is let's say a 20% chance that they shake their starting lineup coming out of the break. And if they do, it means Jalen Green goes to the bench. Green does nothing apart from volume score. His rebounds are up at the moment, that is true. But his efficiency continues to be an issue. His overall production's an issue. And if he goes from being 32 minutes to 27 minutes, well, you don't want to touch him in category leagues outside of streaming for points. And the other one there is Malcolm Brogdon. Yes, he's hurt at the moment. He might come back. But when he comes back, they're not coming back and go, all right, Scoot, we've lent into you as the starting point guard, but old man Brogdon's here, so can you just take a back seat? Like, that is just not going to happen. Brogdon's got a persistent elbow injury that he's out again for now. I would be absolutely shocked if we see Brogdon all season. I have been told that he will try to come back. I don't see it. That's the skeptical, and I'm not really a skeptic that much, but that's the skeptical nature of me. I'm usually the guy that pushes back against the shutdown narrative, but I don't see it for Brogdon whatsoever. Points leagues. Got Mark Williams on this list. That holds for categories. Mark Williams is not coming back. I feel pretty good about saying that. And I talked about this the other day on the top 12 players to stash for later on. I don't think Desmond Bain and Marcus Smart are coming back either. All the comments from the Grizzlies and Zach Kleiman, GM, suggest that there is zero chance those guys step foot on the court this season. It hasn't been officially said because they can't officially say it, but there is almost no way there is any, well, let's say any meaningful role for Smart and Bain. And I'll say the same for Williams. I'm not there with LaMelo, but I just don't know what's going on with him. I've got Bojan Bogdanovic, Dennis Schroeder on this list as well. I've got Grayson Allen and DeAnthony Melton on this list. Melton is going to come back to a bench role, it seems. He's been out for a long time with his back problem, and that means he's going to be limited minutes. I would even consider Melton a category league drop as well. Just not enough upside, playing time, or certainty around his back injury, but he's 100% DeAnthony Melton to drop in points leagues. And same with Grayson Allen. I would 100% hold Allen in cats. In points, no way. No, not worth it at all. And the last one there is, of course, once again, the big fella, Malcolm Brogdon. Let's talk about the players who have been the most added over the last 48 hours. We use some metrics at Basketball Monster. We've got our advanced roster percentage number, and I'm using the Yahoo numbers, which you'll see are very low because people aren't very active on fantasy at the moment. The number one most added player, I actually want to just lie a little bit here. Well, I'm not lying. I was lying. Now I'm telling you the truth. Is that I didn't include the most added player because I wanted to be in a spot here where I could just tell you or just bring up names that I hadn't mentioned already. Because the number one most added player over the last 48 hours was Keyonte George, but I just spoke about him. So I'm trying to just avoid double up names. So I've got DeAndre Hunter. It looks like he's the most added player. He's not. It's Keyonte George, but spare that. DeAndre Hunter, the most added player that we need to talk about. Is he worth an ad? I don't think so. But I will say this. He's been great over the last few games. He's upped his efficiency. His free throw rate is through the roof, and I think he's like 15 of 15 in the last two games from the line, which is huge. There's still the problem that A, he's DeAndre Hunter, and B, Sadiq Bey's still there. And I don't really believe in 28-minute night DeAndre Hunter being a 12-team league guy, but people have taken a chance on it. I'm not really there on it. Trey Murphy's been added. Interesting. Murphy would have been a guy that I would have dropped. The absence of Dyson Daniels probably does help Trey a little bit. I'm not convinced that Trey is a must-roster player at all. I've got no problem if you want to add him. That's okay. I think his upside is only limited, or it's limited because of the presence of other players. And if those guys go down, then sure. But they're not. So, cool. Well, we know Zion's probably going down, but maybe not in the rankings or the injury state. In terms of, the next one is Dylan Brooks, which didn't expect to see Dylan Brooks up 5%. Brooks, honestly, has played well. He's top 100 over the last week of games, last week of game days. He's been awesome. A lot of that is Fred VanVleet being out. They put a lot more minutes and usage into Brooks, and I wasn't sure that they would do that, but they did. I think Brooks still remains just a streamer, though, and not someone that I'm super keen on. Another Rockets player. On Yahoo, the most added guy is Mann Thompson, up 1,300. Mann is probably someone you can have. I think that there is a huge chance that when VanVleet comes back, he plays 21 minutes and he is a complete drop. That is distinctly possible. But the fact that the Jalen Green, I say fiasco, it's not really a fiasco, but the Jalen Green stuff happened in the last game before the break makes me think that, do they see what they can do with Mann and VanVleet together? Could that work? I know Mann can't shoot, but Fred can. So could that work together as a backcourt pairing? So I don't mind the adds of Mann here, but I think there's probably a greater than 50% chance he plays 22 minutes a night and is not going to be rosterable. You got the big sneeze, Precious Achiuwa, up 280 teams. I don't know why people were waiting to add Achiuwa this long. I don't think there's any way that Achiuwa has value when players return. I don't know. There seems to be a common idea. Well, Thibodeau loves him. No, he doesn't. Let me rephrase. I don't think that Thibodeau loves him because I saw when the team was healthy that he would play 12 minutes a night and not touch the ball. But when you lose Anunoby and you lose Randall and you lose Hartenstein and you've got no Robinson and there are no big men on the team, well, he's going to play instead of Jacob Toppin. That's pretty easy. And the other guys are Jericho Sims and Taj Gibson, who are also not good. Precious is also not good. At the moment, he's playing 42 minutes a night. I get people adding him. Makes sense. I don't think it lasts. And then people also adding Paul Reed. What is the delay on adding these two guys? Very easy ads. But why the hell are we doing it now? Anyway, fine. Whatever. You've added them. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style or some sort of weird combination between all of them, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Love when my parts fit my ride, because when eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to US customers. I know that sometimes I do non sequitur tangents, sidebars, so to speak, because random things come into my head. So I was reading that eBay ad, and I got like eBay Motors, and it makes me sound like the EA Sports guy. And then, like, I don't know how my EA Sports is EA Sports. The EA was good there. The sports wasn't right. It's in the game. It's all right. But then I go down the rabbit hole on social media of finding that guy. What's his name? Anthony Alexander or something like that, I think his name is. And seeing people randomly meet him and him do the EA Sports thing live. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I spend 10 minutes looking at Anthony Alexander. Again, don't know if I think that's his name. It's something like that. Apologies to Mr. Anthony, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Andrew Anthony. I don't know. Andrew, it's something. It's Anthony Andrews. It's a double A. I know that. Anyway, doing the EA Sports. EA Sports. It's not bad. All right. So, yeah. Non sequitur sidebar. I'm sure you missed those. Let's talk about Droppable. The most drop players.
Get that garbage out of here!
Who has been jacked off fantasy teams the most over the last 24 to 48 hours? Number one, using our metric at Basketball Monster, is Markel Fultz, down 5%. Yeah, he's been terrible. I talked about him on the biggest drops earlier today in terms of biggest production drops. He's hit 1-3 for the season. What? 1. I think he's taken 7 all year. That's ridiculous. He's losing minutes to Isaac and Suggs and Mr. Black at times. And Fultz is like, yeah, we don't need to hold him. Simone Fontecchio down 4%. I didn't think that would be the case. I don't think that Fontecchio is 100% a must-roster player. I think there's going to be a lot of shenaniganizing when punch-out legend Isaiah Stewart returns. If he returns, he's got a court date the 24th of Feb. I don't think there'll be any suspension before that, but we also don't know what his ankle injury is like. I would be, if this Pistons team, idiots of course, if they don't, they just need to send him away and say, bro, don't play, have the court case, and then come back. But again, the NBA won't suspend him. The team should suspend him, but they probably won't. Because, and people pushed back on me when I said this on Twitter, this team built around Isaiah Stewart. And you can tell me that I'm wrong. No, they actually built around Cade and Jaden Ivey. Did they? Well, if they built around Jaden Ivey, why was he the 11th man in the rotation? Not true. Did they build around Jalen Duren? Cool, that's why they played Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman over him to end last season. Cool, did they build around him? No. They built around Isaiah Stewart. And I'll tell you why I know they built around Isaiah Stewart. Because they needed to find ways to keep him in a role. You're a center? No, we've got another center now. Oh, now you're actually a power forward. I can't actually do that. No, you can. You can. Oh, no, he's actually a really good shooter. There was so much propaganda about Stewart and his shooting and him being the new 4, and the fact that they just would not change that rotation or bring a power forward in or play Bojan Bogdanovic at the 4 because they needed to prioritize the leadership, the toughness, the grit that Isaiah Stewart provides. That is what I mean by build around him. It hampers the entire team. It's the way the Rockets built around Kevin Porter Jr. You can say that they didn't, but they said everything needs to be prioritized with Kevin Porter Jr. Take the ball out of Şengün's hands. Pair Porter and Jalen Green together. A terrible idea. Let's try and make Kevin Porter into a point guard when he's not. That is what they did with Stewart. So he's not their best player, and they never thought he was. But they focused so much of their rebuild around Isaiah Stewart that it screwed him. Anyway, Simone Fontecchio, sidebar. Wow, I didn't even know I did that. Fontecchio, yeah, look, they've got this Thompson, there's Stewart. There is still Fontecchio, he's fine, but he's a little bit of an empty points guy. Think Italian Santi Aldama. The Duck, Luke Kennard, yep, absolutely. I can't trust those Grizzlies and their rotation at all. He's dropped 4%. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, yes, he was a nice ad for Thursday. He stunk on Thursday. Part of the appeal of grabbing a Wolves player was he played Thursday, then he plays Saturday, the next and the only low-volume day left this week. There are some big boys coming up. So if you added him, I probably just would have held, waiting for that Saturday game, but I don't know. Santi Aldama, just talked about him. He's down 135 teams. Yep, he's just not a must-roster player at all. And Leaky Beasley down 130. Great streamer. That's probably about it. Let's talk hot players.
Happy birthday.
Who's been in the top 100 that I haven't mentioned already over the last 7 days of game action? Number one on that list is Duncan Robinson, who just needs to be on a roster. Until we get Rozier and Josh Richardson back, I think Robinson's role is going to be pretty elevated. I don't think that Jimmy Butler really impacts Duncan a huge amount. Jimmy might be back after the break. We don't have any update on his personal thing, rightfully so. But Rozier and Richardson won't be. So Robinson's value is going to be up. And yeah, he just needs to be rostered. And given that he's appearing on this list, he's not. Going at him. Ayo Dosunmu. The Dosunmu, Caruso, Drummond triumvirate seems to be a little bit up and down with that stuff. Dosunmu's been better in most games, or he's been good in most games compared to bad in a couple, but he does need to be on a roster, and he's top 100 over the last week. Grant Williams. Yes, Grant Williams is unbelievably playing well. He's getting backup center minutes in Charlotte. Sometimes people overreact to a lot of stuff, right? The Hornets signed Marcus Bolden. You know who that is? If you don't, congratulations, you shouldn't. He was on the Bucks earlier this season. I don't know if he had a two-way or just a camp invite. Anyway, undrafted player, I believe, out of Kentucky. But he signed a 10-day with the Hornets. So people just want to find, does this mean it's the end of Nick Richards? Does he cut into it? Like, it's a 10-day center. I don't think that's the case. And I don't think it impacts Grant Williams either. It's just like, the genius Nate Mensah probably isn't cutting it as a backup guy. And let's just see, we get a couple of garbage time minutes into this bloke. But anyway, Grant's playing good minutes. He's taking on some of the vacant shots that PJ Washington left. And he's doing it well. I don't have great confidence in Grant, but we've got enough to go at him. I've got Rui Hachimura on this list because in the last week, he had an absolutely on-fire shooting game where he was hitting everything. Jared Vanderbilt Bar being out does help Rui. And then LeBron popped off after the All-Star game and said, I don't know if I'll play first game back. Okay. What are you talking about, LeBron? So it is the first game of a back-to-back as they return. But yeah, we'll just watch that. Rui's a points league guy, which is fine. I still think he's a fringe 12-team points, and he's definitely not a 12-team category guy, even though he's a top 100 player over the last week. I've got Zaire Williams there. Do I suggest adding him? Absolutely not. But the last game the Grizzlies played, this is the bloke that went off. That was a game where everyone was out. Everyone might continue to be out. But they could drop Luke Kennard back into the lineup, and Zaire does nothing. And remember, Zaire has done nothing for 3 years, apart from one good game the last time out. But the value of him actually per game over the last week puts him into the top 100 because he had just a gigantic game. It's just one to watch for now. And the same with Eric Gordon, who's a top 100, but that's because there was a little bit of an absence there for Brad Beal. And when Beal is out, Gordon's a play. And when Beal is back, Gordon is not a play. That's generally the rule. Let's look at some injury replacements. Who are some guys who have some value rising because of players injured? Now, this list is relatively short because I've talked about a lot of these guys already, but I wanted to just mention 3 names. Jordan Goodwin. Jacob Gilead has 2 games left. Actually, that's not true. Let me rephrase that. Jacob Gilead has 2 active game days left. I'd imagine that also means 2 games because I don't think they're going to activate him and not play him. But he's got 2 days left on his 2-way contract. They could convert him, yes. But they also might not. I wouldn't say that Gilead's done anything to suggest that they're going to be super hyped about keeping him. Jordan Goodwin started the last game. Scottie Pippen's out. I don't think Bane's coming back or Smart's coming back and Jar's not coming back and Gilead might not be there. And Goodwin's got an unbelievably good fantasy game. He's a points and rebounds point guard. He gets steals. He's out of position blocks. If he gets 30 minutes a night, guaranteed 12-team league player. Guaranteed. The problem is he's on a 10-day. So I think he's got about 6 days left on his first 10-day. The 10 days don't count over the All-Star break. They don't count that part of it. It's only active NBA game days. Then he's got another 10-day he can sign after that. Then they can either convert him into Gilead's old 2-way spot or they can just give him the full-time last roster spot. That's possible as well. But if you want to talk about getting out ahead of it, it's only Gilead who's battling, and Kennard. But Goodwin's the interesting one. Way more interesting than Gilead. So I don't mind that while Pippen is out and Bane and Smart and all those blokes are out as well. I've got Nick Richards there because he continues to be under-rostered and Mark Williams continues to be out. So we just go with Nick. And the other one is Bruno Fernando. Capella and Okongwu literally might be back next game or in 2 games' time. But if they're not, then Bruno is a 12-team league player. He's not a long-term answer at all. I know he's a lob threat legend, but he's not a long-term answer. He's a guy that if Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella are both out, we add Bruno, and we actually think that that's a top 100 play on the day that he plays. Pretty easily. And then we move on later on. That one, I think, is relatively straightforward. And then 6 more names for us to talk about that I think are just worth a mention. We'll start with Andre Drummond, the big avocado in Chicago. It seems like it's very clear that it is just a matchup-based thing for Drummond. So when we look at the Bulls' schedule, when they're playing against big lineups, as I lose my voice, then we look to his value. Last game was against Cleveland. He started and played 28 minutes. The game before, 16. The game before, 15. They play the Celtics, not a big lineup. They play the Pelicans, not a big lineup. They play the Pistons, not a big lineup. And then they play the Cavs and the Bucks. And you could argue that the Bucks with Giannis and Lopez might be okay for Drummond, but Vooch guarding Giannis, yeah, not sure about that. Then it's the Kings, small, Jazz, small, Warriors, small, Clippers, small, Mavericks, small, Pacers, small, Clippers, small, Wizards, small, Blazers, small, Rockets, small, Celtics, small, Wizards, small, Pacers, small, Nets, small, Wolves again, Hawks, small, Knicks, small, Magic, small, Knicks, small, Pistons, small, Wizards, small, Knicks, small. So yeah, you might have 2 games in there. Maybe 3 if you count the Bucks. So, does that make him a must-roster player? No, it doesn't. Andrew Nembhard. I don't think Nembhard's a very good high-upside player at all. But he's getting a lot of minutes because Ben Matherin's terrible. He is generating some pretty interesting assist and steal numbers. And that might be enough to just have a little bit of value there, at least as a streamer in 12-teamers. There's a little bit there. Cam Whitmore. Whitmore's been out. Tari Eason remains out. I don't think Eason's coming back straight away, by the way. But if Jalen Green does get benched, maybe it's Amen Thompson, but maybe it's Cam Whitmore. Brooks plays the 2, Whitmore plays the 3. Whitmore's a high usage player with a generally pretty good steal rate, pretty good rebound rate, hitting threes at a good volume. If he was to start, he would be a must-roster player. It's just one of those, let's see. I would expect Amen gets the nod over him, but I don't know. Also, the Rockets could start Aaron Holiday and make us all laugh. I've got the prestige penis here. Grade A dick. Because I just do think at some point they're going to say, Gary Trent and Bruce Brown, you are not it. You are not part of our future. Our future involves a lot of dick. And Grady has been pushed into some tighter spots, and he's sort of doing okay in those areas. They want to see him flourish in these positions, and I think that we are going to... I don't know when it'll happen. We might get more dick on the 28th of February. We might be, just fully loaded with dick on the 14th of March. Maybe all the dick comes through at the end of March. I don't know. But at some point, you are going to get more dick. And he is a points guy. He's a threes guy. He's a steals guy. He's a pretty good free throw percentage guy usually. And when I say steals guy, he's not like an elite steals guy, but he's a pretty good steals guy. He's big. He's got good size. 6'6". He's girthy. There's enough there for dick that if we did see him push to 27, or if they come out tomorrow and say, yep, we're going to be prioritizing dick here rest of the way, then you add Grady. Because Trent and Brown are not it. The team is not it. The future, if they're going anywhere, is Barnes, it's Dick, it's Quickly, and it's Barrett. That's the future. So we'll see what they can bring. I put Trey Jemison on this list as well. You could put Lamar Stevens in that spot. I have no idea what they're going to do. Lamar recently came across in the trade. Jemison's on a 2-way, so he's going to be in and out of lineups, but we just don't expect that Jaren Jackson's going to play all season. So Jemison would probably start at center, and Stevens could get minutes at the 4. Both of these guys have ability. Jemison's got more of the traditional fantasy game as a points, rebounds, field goal percentage, blocks guy as a center, and that gives me a little bit more hope, but he's also that 2-way situation's annoying. So they're just a name to watch, and same with Chris Murray in Portland. Chris Murray could take some of those minutes from Kamara, could take Thibel's minutes, could take Jeremy Grant's minutes. There's Jabari Walker there as well, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see Tumani Kamara at the 3, Chris Murray at the 4, Jabari Walker at the 5, and Dwop Reith at the 5. Or Dwop Reith at the 5 and Walker. Sort of those 3 guys all mixing into those positions. Murray, Walker, Reith. Murray, I don't have huge hopes for long term, but if you hit March the 25th, I don't actually care about the long term. It's about what are you doing short term. So Murray's just one of those ones, just a little bit of paying attention to, I think, is worthwhile. And that is the end of a rambling waiver wire show. Don't forget to go and hit the thumbs up, go and hit the notification bell, subscribe, leave your comments, and of course, double bang it up. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.